The city throbbed around them. A million lights painted the night sky. Jack held Alice's hand tighter. He loved the energy of New York, the way it crackled in the air. "It's beautiful," Alice whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. They had just arrived. Jack had promised her the world, and in this city, he felt like he could almost deliver. They strolled hand in hand through Times Square. Giant billboards flashed, advertising everything and nothing. The scent of hot dogs and pretzels filled the air. Jack smiled down at Alice. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. He couldn't wait to share his favorite places with her. But a shiver ran down his spine, a sudden chill that had nothing to do with the autumn breeze. What was that? The news hit like a punch to the gut. Jack stared at the television, a cold dread spreading through him. The images were terrifying. People collapsing in the streets, their skin covered in grotesque purple boils. "It's some kind of virus," the news reporter announced, his voice trembling. "Highly contagious. The authorities are urging everyone to stay calm." But panic had already gripped the city. Jack's blood ran cold as he saw a familiar face in the crowd. Alice's mother. She was coughing, her hand pressed to her throat. He spun to Alice, his heart pounding. "Your mum, we have to get to her." Her face was ashen, etched with fear. He grabbed her hand. "Don't worry, we'll figure this out." But his words felt hollow, even to his own ears. "There's a legend," Jack's grandfather had once told him, his voice low and raspy. "A train that runs beneath the city. They say it travels through time itself." He had dismissed it as an old wives' tale, until now. He raced through the crowded streets, Alice by his side. They had to get to his grandfather's apartment. He had to know more about the train, the ghost train. The legend went that the train could alter destiny, change the course of events. Could it be their only hope? Could it take them back, give them a chance to stop the virus before it started? They finally reached the apartment, breathless and terrified. Jack dug through his grandfather's old journals. He had to find it. The secret to the ghost train, their last chance. The air grew colder as they descended, each step echoing through the empty tunnels. The stench of mildew and decay filled Jack's nostrils, a pungent reminder of the years of neglect. He shone his flashlight down the abandoned subway tunnel, its beam swallowed by the darkness, revealing only fleeting glimpses of the path ahead. Alice clung to his arm, her eyes wide with fear, her breath quickening with every step they took deeper into the unknown. "Are you sure about this, Jack?" Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper. "What if it's just a story?" she continued, doubt creeping into her voice. He squeezed her hand reassuringly, though his own heart hammered against his ribs. He had to believe. They had to believe. The air vibrated with an unearthly hum, a sound that seemed to come from the very walls around them. The ground trembled beneath their feet, sending small pebbles skittering across the floor. Then they saw it. Emerging from the darkness, shrouded in an ethereal mist, was a train, its form barely visible through the thick fog. But this was no ordinary train. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was ancient, its iron body rusted and scarred, its windows dark and hollow like empty eye sockets staring back at them. The train screeched to a halt, the sound echoing through the tunnel like a wail from the past. The doors hissed open, inviting them into its chilling embrace, a cold wind rushing out to greet them. Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. This was their only chance. They had come too far to turn back now. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown. The train car was filled with an eerie silence. Dust motes danced in the pale, flickering gaslight. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, something ancient and unworldly. Jack and Alice sat huddled together, their breath fogging in the frigid air. Suddenly, the train lurched forward, throwing them against the cold, hard seats. Alice gasped. The train rattled and shook, picking up speed with unnatural swiftness. Where were they going? A cold wind swept through the car, extinguishing the gas lights. They were plunged into darkness. And then, from the shadows, a voice echoed, chilling them to the bone. "Who dares disturb the train of Erebus?" The figure solidified in the dim light filtering through the grimy windows. It was a man, or at least he had once been a man. His skeletal face was etched with pain and sorrow. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light. "Who are you?" Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I am Erebus," the spectre rasped, his voice like the grinding of gears. "This train is my prison, cursed to roam the rails of time for all eternity." He explained that he had been a scientist, working on a project codenamed Iron Dragon, a virus designed to enhance human capabilities. But it went horribly wrong, Erebus moaned, his voice filled with anguish. The virus mutated, becoming a plague, and I was blamed. He had been exiled to this train, forced to witness the horrors he had unleashed time and time again. A race against time, a fight for life, the stakes had never been higher, and the clock was ticking down faster than ever. The train hurtled through the darkness, a metallic beast possessed, its wheels screeching against the tracks as if in agony. Jack and Alice clung to each other as the car swayed violently, their knuckles white with the effort of holding on. They had to find a way to stop the virus, to break the curse that bound Erebus to this infernal train. Every second counted, every breath was a struggle. "The research," Erebus rasped, his voice a tortured whisper. "It's on the train, hidden somewhere amidst the chaos. A folder marked with the Iron Dragon symbol. It held the key to their salvation." He pointed a skeletal finger towards a rusty metal cabinet at the end of the car, his eyes filled with a desperate urgency. Jack and Alice scrambled towards it, their hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. The train lurched again, throwing them against the wall with bone-jarring force. Pain shot through Jack's arm, but he couldn't stop now. The mission was too critical, the stakes too high. They had to find the folder, had to find a way to undo the horrors that awaited them in their own time. Failure was not an option. They finally wrenched the cabinet open, their fingers trembling with anticipation and fear. Inside, amongst dusty vials and crumbling papers, lay a leather-bound folder. It seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Embossed on its cover was a serpent, coiled around a sword, the Iron Dragon. This was it, the key to their survival and the end of their nightmare. Back to the precipice. The air crackled with energy. The train slowed, its brakes screeching in protest. Jack and Alice stumbled out onto the platform. They were back. Back in the present, back in the abandoned subway station. The silence was deafening. Gone was the ghostly hum of the train, the chilling presence of Erebus. It felt like a dream, a nightmare. But the weight of the folder in Jack's hand told him it was all too real. They raced back through the tunnels, their lungs burning, their legs screaming for rest. They had to get to the lab, had to destroy the research before it was too late, before the virus could be unleashed upon the world. The city above was eerily quiet. The streets, once teeming with life, were now deserted. The silence was more terrifying than any scream. They were running out of time. The echo of screams. It reverberated through the empty halls, a haunting reminder of what once was. The lab was abandoned, the air thick with the smell of chemicals and fear. Every corner seemed to whisper secrets of the past. Jack and Alice found the remnants of the Iron Dragon project, vials containing the deadly virus, research notes scribbled in frantic handwriting. The notes spoke of desperation, of a race against time. Jack's hands trembled as he poured the vials of virus into the incinerator. Each drop felt like a weight lifting off his shoulders, yet the burden of responsibility remained. He watched as the flames consumed them, turning the deadly concoction into nothing more than ash. The fire roared, a symbol of their fight against an invisible enemy. It was over, for now. The tension in the air was palpable, a mix of relief and lingering dread. But as they left the lab, the city's silence seemed to press down on them. The quiet was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. The virus may be gone, but the memory lingered. It was a shadow that would follow them, a constant reminder of their ordeal, the fear, the despair. It was etched into their minds, an indelible mark of their struggle. It was a scar that would forever mark the city and their hearts. The city bore the wounds of their battle, just as they did. They had cheated fate, but at what cost? The price of their victory weighed heavily on their souls. The ghost train, the spectre of Erebus, the horrifying reality of the virus, It all felt like a warning, a reminder of the thin line between life and death, a glimpse into a dark future they had only narrowly averted. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The train still whistles. Life slowly returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after the shadow of the virus. But Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something was watching them, waiting. One day, a letter arrived. It was addressed to Jack, the handwriting unfamiliar and chillingly elegant. It read, "The Iron Dragon may sleep, but its venom still courses through the veins of this city. The train is waiting, and so are we." Jack's blood ran cold. It wasn't over. The virus was just the beginning. There were forces at play far older, far more sinister than he could have ever imagined, and the ghost train, he knew, would ride again.